Hello, everyone. I hope you had a good week. It is Saturday, September 5th, and we're at the end of our first section on literacy narrative. Everybody, you have a journal entry due tomorrow, September 6th at 11:59 p.m. So I just wanted to remind you of that. And I'm going to spend some time talking a little bit, just a few minutes, on description. And if you remember in our book, now I'm showing you right now, Norton Volume 4. Some of you have the 5th edition. So the chapter pages and even the chapter number itself is different, but I believe the colors are the same. So if you look at the colors along the side or at the top of the book like this, you can see that we're in the orange color. And what this whole section does, not just this chapter on description, but all of the chapters in this section, this section discusses strategies for essays. So when you know your genre, when you think about your purpose, when you think about your audience, your stance, and then the design and what kind of media that you're going to place your paper in, so what your rhetorical situation is, then you look at the different strategies that can create that rhetorical situation, that help with that particular kind of essay. So being a personal narrative, a literacy narrative, describing is one of the important parts of creating a good paper. And this chapter on describing gives some good definitions and examples of what makes good description in a personal narrative. So, starting from the beginning of the chapter, one of the main points is, of course, detail. So, the goal, as the book says, is to be as specific as possible so that you help your audience imagine or see whatever it is that you wish them to see. Not just see, but all of the senses: hear, taste, smell, touch, everything. So there are some paragraph examples here of description, and the discussion of sensory details later in the chapter helps us understand that. Your audience wants to imagine the sounds, odors, tastes, and physical sensations in addition to the sights. So sensory details are important. I want to read this one little passage from the book. It's very short. Some of the passages are long, but I'll go into how the details, excuse me, my computer fell over, how the details make this passage. So, this little paragraph is just 2 or 3 sentences long. Last Friday afternoon, the day ritualized consumerism is traditionally at its most frenetic, Alex Balkans twirled in front of a full-length mirror at the Ritz thrift shop on West 57th Street, as if inhabited by the soul of Eva Gabor in Green Acres. Ms. Balkans was languishing in a $795 dyed mink parka her grandmother had just bought her. Ms. Balkans is 6. So the detail in that one long sentence at the beginning helps us understand the passage, the exaggeration, how much money is at stake, the types of words that are used. So the verb twirled, inhabited by the soul of Eva Gabor. The word frenetic. She languishes in the dyed mink parka. So she doesn't just stand in an expensive coat. She languishes in the dyed mink parka. And they give how expensive it is too. So all of these things help us understand how important description is to give us a sense in our imagination of what a thing looks like, feels like, smells like, tastes like, and the auditory representation of that thing as well. Later in the chapter, we get into objectivity and subjectivity in description. Both types of description are important. So objective descriptions attempt to be uncolored by personal opinions. So scientific writing is an example of objective description, whereas subjective descriptions allow the writer's opinions and emotions to come through. Certainly in a personal literacy narrative, you're going to be writing more subjective than objective description. So your own emotions want to come through what you describe, the words that you choose and the way you choose to put them together. The next section in this chapter I'm describing is about vantage point, or where you locate yourself in relation to what you're describing. So you're looking at something from a distance and you're able to see, or even from up close, and you're describing in as much detail as you can what it looks like. And depending on the topic that you choose, your vantage point will be important. Think of it this way. Sometimes these elements of description, such as objective description or the use of particular sensory details or the use of vantage point, matter a lot. Sometimes they don't matter as much. And that totally depends on the purpose and how you plan on achieving that purpose. And then finally, the last part of this chapter goes into dominant impression, or as the chapter says, the overall feeling that the individual details add up to. What is the overall feeling that I get as the audience from reading your particular passage, your particular description? If you're writing about a book, if you're writing about a presentation that you did, if you're writing about how you love writing, if you're writing about how you hate writing, all of these things, we want to end with this dominant impression. So the singular primary feel that we want to get from a particular passage. What happens in this particular chapter is the paragraph that the authors of this book choose to use for dominant impression is all about limestone quarries. So the author, Scott Russell Sanders, is giving a dominant impression of Indiana limestone quarries. So these huge beds of rock, of limestone, and his dominant impression is clear that they resemble battlefields. So I'm not going to read this entire paragraph, but we'll get that dominant impression from the words he chooses and the way he puts those words together. The quarries will not be domesticated. They are not backyard pools. They are battlefields. Each quarry is an arena where violent struggles have taken place between machines and planet, between human ingenuity and brute resisting stone, between mind and matter. Waste rock litters the floor and brim like rubble in a bombed city. The ragged pits might have been the basements of vanished skyscrapers. Stones weighing tens of tons lean against one another at precarious angles, as if they have been thrown there by some gigantic strength and have not yet finished falling. So we see this example. He's using comparisons. So for instance, he's comparing the stones thrown there by some gigantic strength. Waste rock litters the floor like rubble in a bombed city. So notice that it's not just verbs that this author is using, but he's also using comparisons. He's using metaphors and similes to create that dominant impression that a large bed of limestone, because it's being dug out, because the limestone is being used to build things that human beings inhabit, that this limestone quarry now looks like a bombed out city. That's all I have on describing. So have a good rest of your week. Let me know if you have any questions. Bye-bye.